and reforms?
Well, first of all, you've got to understand Medicaid expansion is a part of the Obamacare legislation. In fact, the Supreme Court ruling that came out of Washington was really 4-4-1. And the one vote was really Chief Justice Roberts, which gave the states a choice on whether or not they would do Medicaid expansion or not. That was the one vote. It was one of the most unique Supreme Court rulings in our history. And at least he did that in that one vote. What's ironic is I made a decision as governor, and so did my legislature. We decided not to do Medicaid expansion. And it's almost, and the media almost says you're not doing Medicaid expansion. They don't realize that's part of Obamacare. And the reason we did not do Medicaid expansion was, first of all, we couldn't deal with the debt of our existing Medicaid, which is for women, the elderly, children, and the disabled. What Medicaid expansion does is expand that to much more of our population. And I could argue for good reasons, because they're being served often in the emergency room and so forth. The dilemma I had was this. In a very short period of time, I would have had to put a brand new bureaucracy together at a time period that I couldn't meet. I knew I couldn't meet it. When my current bureaucracy couldn't handle the Medicaid cost overruns that were currently happening, which, by the way, in my state ended up being over $500 million over projections set forth by my previous legislature and my previous governor. Over $500 million over projections. That's out of a $20 billion budget, so it's a pretty big hit. There went all my teacher raises right there, or infrastructure money. So the Medicaid expansion is, I think, one of the most difficult issues on governors' plates right now. Let me tell you the other issue that we are having, and that is that the rules and standards weren't written. And in fact, even in the last 4 or 5 weeks, the administration has sent us new regs on Medicaid, and no one is talking about it. We just got a new reg, which might, in fact, force us to do Medicaid expansion whether we want to or not in the upcoming year, because a new reg came out 5 or 6, 7 weeks ago, which basically says if a person goes to the hospital and they say they cannot pay for it, and they might not even qualify for Medicaid, they can still sign up for Medicaid, even if they're not under one of the 4 or 5 characteristics of a Medicaid recipient. If they do that, the hospital then, and that person can bill the state of North Carolina for 2 months. And after 2 months, if the state finds out that they did not qualify for Medicaid, they will be taken off of Medicaid, but the state still has to pay for that 2 months. And that is 2 months of tests and services that we did not have budgeted. So it's almost an end around that 4-4-1 vote by the administration, which then says the state has to take 100% of the responsibility. So now I have to make a decision. Wait a minute, the Fed says they'll give it to me for free for 3 years. But after the 3rd year, we have to pay 10%. And one of the reasons I didn't do that is because I didn't know 10% of what. 10% of what? We had no idea what the future cost would be. But now that the new reg has come in, I'm in a very difficult position on what decision to make. We've checked the constitutionality of it, and our lawyers say the administration has every right to do what they're doing, even based upon the Supreme Court ruling, which comes as a surprise to me.
Yeah.
But these are the difficult parameters of Obamacare right now that are still being rolled out that, frankly, haven't been discussed enough publicly.